Yeah. Have you all been sitting down a long, long time? Yeah. Do you want to stand up just for 2 seconds? Because it kills me. I'm going to be speaking for about an hour. I've been asked to speak. So do you want to stand up and just let your feet rest? Then say the More mantra in Gurumukhi and then in English. What I'd like to do first, I think you can't really go wrong with this one. If I start with the More mantra, you can't really go wrong. So I'm just going to play a little bit of music, sitar music. Then say the More mantra in Gurumukhi and then in English. Ik onkar Satnam Karta Purak Nirbhav Nirvair Akal Murit Ajuni Sarabam Gurdwara Singh Sabha. Aad Sach, Jugad Sach, Happy Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach. God is only one. His name is true. He is creator. He is without fear. He is inimical to none. He never dies. He is beyond births and deaths. He is self-illuminated. He is realized by the kindness of the true Guru. He is true in the beginning. He was true when the ages commenced and has ever been true. He is also true now. God is only one. His name is true. He is creator. He is without fear. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Sri Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you for inviting me to this community of the Panth. It's a great honour to be invited to come and talk with you today. This is my first visit to Bradford, and I hope there will be many more. I've come to talk to you today about why I chose the Sikh path. I will explain what drew me to it and what appealed to me. I must apologise if I say anything that causes any offence in any way. I speak from experience and from what I have found. I feel that Sikh youth need to be challenged in some areas, not least on the sensitive issue of the caste system, which sadly still exists among the British Punjabi community of the diasporas today. Forgive me for any vichar. But I must say in advance, I am not a scholar of Gurbani. I am a university student and a human being. I am a Sikh student and a human being. I have observed Sikhi, and now I hope I live it, or at least have begun to live it. So why did I choose Sikhi? For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. This is a quote from the Bible, from the book of Ruth. The story is about a conversion, about someone who joins a group of people in their religion. I'm only using this text because this is how I feel. For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Like a deer that pants for the water, looking in many directions, exhausted, tired, and suffering, I finally found the water, and I drank it. The Anand Sahib says, your thirst will not be quenched. When you get and drink God's nectar, the thirst will never trouble you. This God's nectar is obtained by one who, due to his previous pious acts, meets the true Guru. This is what I did around this time last year. I took Amrit, the ambrosial nectar of the Guru. Ambrosial nectar of the Guru. So a little about me. I was born in 1984 and my name was Barry. I was born in Wolverhampton in England, West Midlands. My parents... I just realised something. My slides aren't up, and I'm assuming they are. Are they not working?
There's nothing working there. Who's in charge of the picture allowance?
I was speaking, thinking you could see all these slides behind me, and realised you've not been able to see them, so it's... Is it going to be possible, do you think, or...?
I think it's downstairs starting it out.
Okay, great. Well, I was born in 1984. My name was Barry, and I was born in Wolverhampton in England, in the West Midlands. My parents are divorced, and life has had many unsettling times, including moving house on many occasions. Life has led me into paths of depression and feelings of inadequacy. But conversely, there have been times when I've been arrogant and too proud. Throughout all this, however, I have always tried to seek God where he can be found, and I use the word he with reservation. As a child, I attended church. I loved the musical tradition of the church, and in a way the church became a mother to me. I went to different kinds of church, and I kept searching, as well as singing. In 2002, I went to the University of Aberdeen, where I had many problems. I suffered from depression, and I was not old enough to be 400 miles away from home in northeast Scotland, aged only 18. But during this time, I met Catholic Carmelite friars who are like monks, who influenced my spiritual journey. We prayed together and spent time doing meditation. I came home after failing the first year of university and began working in a local care home. When I eventually left home and moved into an urban area of Wolverhampton, I was fascinated by all the culture around me. Wolverhampton's a bit like Bradford. There's a lot of Asians living in Wolverhampton, and I lived in quite an Asian area. On the bus I passed Gurdwara, Hindu mandirs, and a mosque, all of which I have visited out of academic interest and as well as in search of God. In the main, most of these visits were educational, to satisfy my curiosity and interest in comparative religion. However, the Gurdwara had something very special about it. A longing to go in and see behind the door, the calling of the Guru and its darshan drew me in. I had always been interested in the church and studying the Bible, and I was a practicing Christian from an early age. Fingers crossed. Sadly, however, my parents had little interest in religion, so I didn't really have any religious foundation, but this is how my spiritual quest began. In 2003, I attended a Gurdwara for the second time. As I can recall right back, I went to a Gurdwara on a school visit the first time, and I asked for some prashad there, and the Sangat were really shocked and surprised, but impressed that I even knew what prashad was. I went to the Ramgarhia Board Gurdwara in Wolverhampton in 2003. I went into the Gurdwara and I was very nervous. I went into the hallway of the temple, a converted house. I was asked to remove my shoes and cover my head. I asked if I was allowed upstairs into the temple area. I wondered if I needed an appointment. The second time I went, I passed the bedroom where a man with a long beard and long hair was lying down. He smiled at me. On going into the Gurdwara, a kindly old man came up to me and gave me a piece of fruit and a lolly. He smiled. "Oh, it's you, the man lying on the bed." He looked so different in his turban and his suit. He was the Gyani. He explained the essential Sikh doctrine that God is only one, and he gave me prashad. I sat down, and then he said to me, "Study Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and you will be blessed." Sitting in the Divan Hall felt very peaceful, but I was always a little on edge. Lots of elderly old people watched me very curiously. Every time I stood up, they looked at me, and I was worried I'd done something wrong. I never found an opening or a place where I could really, truly learn about Sikhism and its teachings in depth. I asked a few aunties in an Indian charity shop to teach me how to tie a turban. I think they thought I was a bit crazy. I wore it a few times, but I hadn't got the confidence to wear it all the time and ignore the strange looks from the public or the peeping horns of people going past. At this stage, I didn't tell my parents. So I began wearing a bandana to work and a kirpan under my nurse's uniform. I didn't understand why. It just felt right. But I really didn't understand Sikhi that well. Anyway, I wanted to learn more, and eventually I found DTF Bookshop, Soho Road in Birmingham. I met a lovely lady there who explained a few things to me, and I purchased a Nitnem. Bear in mind this was about 8 years ago, and I didn't really have the internet at home or know about things like SikhNet or Sikh Channel or anything like that. On reading the first page of the Bhai Sahib, it was like I had found gold. It was beautiful, universal and enlightening. I began reading parts of it in the morning, sitting at my table in a miserable bedsit. These words always brought me some comfort. But the bedsit wasn't a good spiritual environment, as the girl upstairs was smoking and, well, other things were happening, if you know what I mean. Because of my Christian background, I felt bad. I felt like I was committing idolatry by doing matateg to the Guru Granth Sahib. I decided to give my Nitnem away to somebody. However, I kept the kirpan, which I now wear. It was in a drawer at my grandmother's house, and for many years it gathered dust. I thought I should give it away to a Granthi, as it wasn't really part of my religion. But I thought, no, it's special, I want to keep it. Something resounded internally, a small quiet voice in my mind. I searched for approximately 8 years, including living in a Benedictine monastery and practicing Judaism, but never actually converting. Considered converting to Judaism, and I was assaulted by a group of Asian Muslim lads for wearing a Jewish skull cap, and felt that becoming Jewish would just be simply too hard, due to a lot of political tensions and a great history of anti-Semitism. At this point, I again began to attend a Gurdwara on a regular basis. I just sat there. It was peaceful and allowed the stress to fall off me. But again, there were a lot of long stares and people looked. But I wanted to know more. I might get the chance to have a 10-minute talk with a Granthi who spoke broken English. But any more complex questions couldn't be answered. So when I went back to university, at the University of Wolverhampton, I met the chaplain and I asked him if there's a Sikh society. And there was one. Finally, I met young people with good English who pointed me in the right direction and had access to all the information I needed and wanted. I learned more, and they told me about Sikh websites. I had recently moved to Bearwood in Birmingham, and I wanted to find a Gurdwara to attend. I went a couple of times to Big Gurdwara in Soho Road in Birmingham. I met the Babaji there, and I went to Smethwick High Street, but I wanted somewhere on my doorstep, and I found it. On my second day of living there, I was lost and missed the bus stop, and I was away from home, lost. I walked up and down. What should I see on my journey but a Gurdwara that used to be a Methodist church with condas on it? I went back the next day. I went there one evening, and I sat at the back, and the teacher gave a sermon in Punjabi which lasted 45 minutes. I was beginning to get disheartened, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. Suddenly his loud, hypnotic voice, which is always gentle, said, "You at the back there, you have been listening very patiently to me, speaking another language." He then went on to give me a talk about Sikhism and its main teachings on, yet again, one God, universal religion. Gurdwara Singh, an assistant grantee, became my teacher. I asked him what I should do to become a Sikh. He invited me to attend Punjabi classes. I did so, and at that point I didn't know that he would be presiding at the Panj Pyare at the ceremony where I took Amrit. At university, the Sikh societies had afternoons of Simran, and I met wonderful people, including someone called Gurdwara Singh, who gave lots of talks on spiritual matters. And one day I just said, "I'm not joking, I'm not taking the mickey, can someone teach me how to tie a turban?" I really was worried that they would think I'm intruding into something that is not from my background. But the answer was yes, a warm yes, and they gave me material, and I learned a simple round turban style like this one, and apparently it's called the "I'm late for work" turban because you do it in a rush. I said I would wear it once a week to get used to, and see if I wanted to be a Sikh that badly. Well, 2 weeks later I said, I don't care anymore about people's looks. I will wear a turban if I want to, and I wore it all the time, in my free time, and then for work, much to the distress of a few apne there that said I should be a baptised Singh before I could wear a turban. About 2 months later, I asked to take Amrit, and the Mahant of the Gurdwara gave me talks and some advice. He checked I was wearing my 4Ks. I mainly only wore the kirpan at home before I took Amrit. I don't normally make decisions easily. I find it hard to decide on many things in life, but I confidently asked to take Amrit, and I couldn't believe it was going to happen. But I desired it, and it did happen. And on the 17th of March last year, at midday, I took Amrit. The preparation and the night before taking Amrit was very special. I knew that I wouldn't sleep well that night. I was excited and I couldn't wait. So I asked the grantee if I could stay in the guest quarters that night. I went upstairs into a makeshift sleeping area, and there were thin mattresses on the floor. I wasn't accustomed to this new surrounding, as sleeping on an inch of broken foam seemed so diverse from the standards of sleeping on a big, chunky bed. However, it was comfortable, with having loving Sangat around me and the Guru looking over me. I slept and nothing was a concern to me. I didn't need anything else. It was like being locked in a room that held me, not in bondage and chains, but in a room where I knew I could sleep near to the Guru Granth Sahib. The room was quite full, with only a little light, just like a camping light, small light. And in the background I could hear older Singhs speaking gently in Punjabi, and I couldn't understand a word, but that was fine. It was like being in another country. I suppose it was another country, but the reassuring, calm tone of those who represent generations of Sikhs and your ancestors, and now my ancestors, helped me to sleep. Without speaking Punjabi and without speaking English, I just knew I was in good company. At about 2:30 that morning, I had a good hot ishnan and began to listen to the Panj Bania booming through the microphone. And I must confess I went back to sleep, but I listened in the background, and at 4:30 in the morning I got up and put Barney on my phone on YouTube. And apparently, don't know if you know this, but the best religious people have Apple phones. I don't have one, but apparently that's the case. People spoke words of encouragement to me in the morning, and then after the Sunday Punjabi class, everyone left the divan, apart from those taking Amrit. This was it. It was about to happen. Would it be formal? Would the Panj Pyare accept me? What if they said, no, you may not take Amrit today? The Panj Pyare came out of the Sachkhand, and Uncle Gurdwara Singh held a large kirpan. He gave a talk wearing his sunglasses. He had come specially to perform the ceremony, even though he was recovering from an eye operation. But he was one of the few people that could speak English and could explain everything to me, so he came. After a discourse, he said that I could come forward. What surprised me was that the ceremony was more about what I did rather than what was ritually done to me. Water, Amrit, was poured into my hands, and I drank it 5 times, and it tasted sweeter than anything I'd tasted in my whole life. Sweeter than laddus and even jalebis. The final part was very emotional. The Panj Pyare gave me the bowl and said that I can now drink from it. There was no turning back now. I did so, with sticky, sugary water all over my ginger beard. I drank it all, and I couldn't get enough of it. I'd done it. It was only at that moment I believed it was going to happen. It had happened, that was it. And I knew that I was a Sikh. All the long stares and comments from Apne, from Gore, were worth it. They became ephemeral. Nobody could ever dare say I was not a Sikh. And if they did, I'd just tell them to come and argue with the Panj Pyare and they'd tell them to get lost. Because above all, I had taken Amrit. No questions, no arguments. But above all, the fact was that I had found peace through God our Creator, through meeting the Guru. My emotions were feelings of shock that I'd done it. I couldn't believe it was going to happen, that it had happened. Joy, peace and blessing, and gratitude and love. That night I was talking amongst the Sangha and we were laughing so much. The Guru had blessed us with joy and humour, and I could feel the pleasure and happiness that the Amrit had created. It was like having a drug, but Amrit doesn't harm us, it heals us and produces joy. Not split seconds of high induced by narcotics, drugs, alcohol. The benefits of becoming a Sikh, well, there are many health and financial benefits, aren't there? Because we don't smoke, we don't drink, we don't have illicit sex, and there's no need for Gillette anymore because we don't shave, and I don't go to the hairdressers anymore either. So I say Gillette is definitely not the best a man can get. The day of taking Amrit was a very special day, and one that will always be a very fond memory in my heart. Now I'm going to read a very short piece on casteism, and I don't want to cause any offence, it's very short. I would briefly like to mention this subject, the subject of caste within the British Punjabi culture. The C word, caste, pre-exists the Guru's time. It is not part of our religion. But sadly it is endemic amongst some Sangha in the UK. The very existence of Caste Watch UK is a testimony to this. But the Rehet Mariada's clear position in relation to caste is that a caste should have no belief in caste at all. The teachings of our scriptures say God has no coit, mark, colour, caste or lineage. I salute God who has no caste. God is not called by any particular name. He has not got any caste, outline, colour or mark. No one can describe God who has no colour, caste or lineage. God has neither any caste or any dynasty. God does not have any special love for any special caste or tribe. Before I became a Sikh, many people said to me they were Jat caste, and this was a very high caste in India. They did not tell me that Jats were farmers, and I admire them. They worked hard in the agricultural industry in India generations ago. They came here and made their own lives and worked hard. Yes, be proud of hard-working men and women of India who worked on the land in the baking heat. Be proud of your heritage and the toil of your ancestors, but abandon any form of casteism. Reject caste as a concept of ethnic Sikh identity. I typed in Sikh followed by the letters C, A, S, and immediately I was confronted by a list of 9 searchable categories, each relating to the specific subject of the Sikh caste system. One professor said, unfortunately caste is so deeply embedded in the Indian psyche that it had never, and still had never, been eliminated from the Panth. And this is a UK Asian-born Sikh professor who said this. A personalised number plate bearing your caste type is surely a triviality and also an expensive means of display that is superfluous and unnecessary. Some of these plates aren't expensive because they're illegal, cheap, nasty, and basically not even legally registered. Being a rude boy isn't really anything to be proud of. Why did a 12-year-old girl ask a Giani what caste I belonged to? The Giani replied, Giaanroop Singh is a Khalsa. Where did this girl, a young girl, get the concept of caste from? Was she born with this concept of caste in her mind? And the answer is no. She was taught it by others. As an outsider, people should not have explained to me that the concept of caste was an integral part of what it means to be a Sikh. But we are